This just across the old wire. This is the new world we're in. So here's what happened. Adam Schefter got a message from the agent. This is the new way things are going. This is now you can't have a regular report without saying who negotiated the contract. I'm just telling you, as a consumer of the football, I love it. It's great. Consumer of the baseballs and the basketballs and the hockeys. I don't give a single buttered, flambéed, au jus cooked bleep about who negotiated the deal.
Correct.
Take your money, agent. You deserve it. You did your job. I want to never come by here. I never want to hear who negotiated the deal again. Because here's what's happening. None of you, I promise you, I apologize. None of you guys care about this. I'll give you the actual news in a second. None of you care about this. This is a me thing. Give me a second for me. The new world we live in is if you want to get the Nuggets, the Denver Nuggets, if you want your Jokic, if you want your Jamal Murray, if you want your Michael Porter Jr., you want your Aaron Gordon, if you want your Nuggets, you've got to scratch the back. Used to be you didn't have to do that. It used to be the most important thing was get the word out and whatever. Well, it's just part of it. Now, you get Adam Schefter at the end of this tweet. Tory Dandy and Commanders GM Adam Peters negotiated the deal. I assume Peters had something to do with it because it's with Washington.
Sure.
I don't care about the agent.
It's correct take.
They are not the star. The star is this. And now I'm going to get to the point. This is from Schefter. A rework deal for Debo in D.C. The local 53 are guaranteeing $17 million of Deebo Samuel's previously non-guaranteed salary for this season, along with adding another $3 million worth of incentives, per sources. Samuel now will play this season as a one-year deal worth up to $20 million, including $17 million guaranteed. So there you go. There was the mystery. So Grant dismissed this a little bit. I said, hold on, I'm not sure we should totally eliminate the possibility here. There always seemed like something needed to be done regarding Samuels and his contract. Not Samuels, not Curtis Samuels, Deebo Samuel and his contract. I think that was part of the reason he and San Francisco were far enough apart. He probably wanted either something like this or more long-term deal. And maybe, I don't want to say a condition of the trade, but maybe part and parcel of the trade was to go from a non-guaranteed deal where he could, God forbid, slip on a pebble and tear his ACL and might not be entitled to anything. I don't know exactly how that works, but you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like non-guaranteed players don't like that. Nobody likes non-guaranteed. That's obvious. To shift to something that made sense for everybody, not necessarily signing him to a long-term deal. What was going to happen? This kind of solves that mystery, Topes.
Yeah, I don't know. How does this affect his cap hit? As it stays the same, I'm assuming?
I don't know. I wonder if now that it's guaranteed, it might increase it, no?
I'm not sure.
Dollar for dollar?
Maybe there's something. I remember there was some kicker in the deal that maybe they could push some to next year. So I'm curious about the cap hit. To me, when it comes to guaranteed, non-guaranteed, that doesn't affect me. Like, he's going to get his money. That's fine. I'm happy for him that he's due $17 million. He gets that $17 million. It's more so, how does it affect the cap? And at this point, they're kind of, with some of the moves that they've made, now acquiring Tunsil and these different things, they don't exactly have the most cap space to work with anymore. They have enough to fill out the rest of the roster,
right,
but they're not going shopping in the big boy market anymore, unless they were to go with Hendrickson and they could figure out an extension and make it work. But I don't know. This makes sense. You were going to have this guy, like you said, ease of comfort for Deebo, make it something that he's more comfortable to play here. Great. I don't love the fact that he can essentially earn $20 million in a year for a guy that didn't go for 1,000 yards last year. But regardless, that's what he was going to get paid pretty much regardless.
Yeah, if he plays great, he'll earn it, and you go, no problem. We had this discussion a million times over with Kirk Cousins and franchise tags and whatever. And the thing I said at that point, and loosely applies here, was there are 4 different scenarios, big picture, where that could have gone. If he played great, you just sign him to a long-term contract, and it's awesome. You don't worry about it. You go, we got a guy. Who cares? I can't wait to pay him. If he sucks, great. We signed him to this one-year deal, this franchise tag thing. Goodbye. Good riddance. Thank God we didn't tie ourselves Daniel Jones style to a long-term deal for a guy that isn't very good. No problem. But if he's in the middle, if he's mediocre, or if he's pretty good, it costs you great. That's the problem. That's kind of like this now, but in a much better way. If he doesn't play well, you go, that's a one-year deal. It's probably too expensive. $17 million against the cap, because that's what it was before this. Who knows if this lowers the cap number or not, TBD. But you go, that's a one-year deal. worth a swing, no problem. If he plays great, 20 million is a bargain. And I don't know that he will. Maybe the truth will be somewhere in between. But to me, you don't have those negative scenarios you had. I don't know why Cousins came up in my mind, but just reminded me of the money and sort of the is it worth it, quote unquote, that discussion we had a billion times over. If he doesn't play well, fairly well, he's not tying you down for years. But if he plays great, 20 million is a bargain. I guess.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's something that for a 5th round pick, paying him a little bit of money, you had extra money. Who are you going to give that money to? Because that's the other thing too. Is like if you say, well, we could have had extra 20 million to go spend. Well, where are you going to spend it? Does that mean that now suddenly you're willing to go get Trey Hendrickson? Does that mean you would have been in on somebody else? Does that mean you could have thrown an extra $5 million on a Ronnie Stanley so you could have got him instead of having to trade picks for Laramie Tunsil? Who knows? But for a 5th rounder, I don't mind doing it. I don't know that there was a lot of other moves that they were going to make with that money, so I'm totally fine with it. But at some point, too, we were talking last week about, are they giving up too many picks? Well, there's a 5th rounder. If he doesn't turn out to be anything, yeah, 5th rounders are a little bit of a crapshoot, but other people find stuff there all the time, right? Like you found George Kittle in the 5th round. You could find someone like that. You're willingly giving up on that. That's fine. It's not saying it's easy to do, but we'll see how he does this year.
So are you, as a quick side, before we get into some of these rule changes, would you say you're bullish or bearish on his season? Sounds like you're not that excited.
I lean more bearish than bullish.
Okay.
I'm not saying he's not going to do anything, but I if he gives me what he gave me last year, I'm fine. I'm not thrilled.
Same here.
I'm not. It's like I'm whelmed. I'm not overwhelmed. I'm not underwhelmed. I'm just right in the middle.
Does he go over 1,000 total yards?
No.
Does he go over 900 total yards?
No.
Then you're pretty bearish.
Yeah, I would say he goes 850-ish. Somewhere around there.
Give or take 700 receiving, couple hundred rushing yards.
I think he gets involved. I think he gets his touches, but I think, Terry's going to get a bulk of the receiving game. I don't think he does anything too crazy. So 800 yards, somewhere around there.
Yeah, so I think I'm more bullish. I mean, to me, his per game yardage totals for the first time last year dipped. You know what I mean? Like now it's skewed always because there's a couple games a year that he quote unquote plays, but he didn't play.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Where he's active and on the roster and maybe he's a decoy and like they targeted him once and that's it. So those always kind of hurt. But if you just look at sort of the game logs over the years, the yards per reception didn't go down last year. The 13.1, he was up from 11.3 a couple of seasons ago. So just telling you, like, there's still a skill set there. There's still something. He's never been a great man-to-man guy, never a great separator, never a great pure route runner. But if you look at him as a wide receiver, you're going to be disappointed. Look at him as a running back, you're disappointed. He's Weapon X. He's what Deadpool should have been in the Wolverine movie. That disappointed everybody, to be frank with you. I can't believe you have the merc with the mouth, not talk. Like, that's the whole point of Deadpool is that he talks. He talks to everybody. Talks to you, talks to me, talks to the characters on the screen, and you sewed his mouth shut? What are you doing? There's no wonder you lost control of that studio and you lost control of the IP. You could have made billions of dollars. You got the talker guy in Wade Wilson, played by Ryan Reynolds. What does Ryan Reynolds do? Not eat fast food, hawk aviation gin and Mint Mobile, and do a lot of abs and sit-ups, and he talks, and you don't let him talk in any of the movies? Anyway. Trying to get Darius interested. Not at all. Nothing. Just sitting there staring at the computer. Didn't care at all. Throwing the chum in the water. Didn't bite anything.
Nothing.
Anyway. So to me, this is still a weapon. And nothing went right in San Francisco last year, and he's included in that. I think this is good. I think I'm sneaky bullish. I've been talking myself into not that 1770.
Sure.
Type yardage total.
What are you thinking? What's the ballpark?
I think he's north of 1,000 yards, dude.
You thinking so like 1050, 11, 1200? You thinking just barely over 1,000?
Little 1050 piece.
Okay.
I think it's 800 plus receiving yards, and I think it's 185 rushing yards, something like that.
What is the level that you have to get to that you feel okay? We're good.
Last year, if I get last year, which was pedestrian, then I'll be thrilled.
Correct, and that's why I say 800. Last year, 806 scrimmage yards. The previous year, he was at 1117. I don't think you're getting that. But if you're right around 800, where he went for 670 receiving yards last year, he went for 136 yards on the ground last year. If you get that, I'm totally fine with it. And that's kind of where I think he is. I just don't think that in terms of what you're going to get in the passing game, he's not going to be your downfield threat. He's going to be someone that's going to rely on underneath screens and everything.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Maybe he's able to pop one of those.
Yeah.
I don't know that I see that.
Well, with all due respect to Olamide Zaccheaus, those are Deebo's touches now.
Sure.
With all due respect to De'Ami Brown, most of the year until the playoffs, when he's like, you know what I am? I'm Jerry Rice 2.0. But before then, he was pedestrian Peter catching a tunnel screen a week. That's Deebo's now. Like you now have a quote unquote second receiver in that way, the way that Kingsbury and company use their guys. Terry McLaurin's running the route tree. Deebo Samuel is running around the line of scrimmage, where he's motioning this way, he's motioning that way. You do a couple things off of that bubble screen, a couple things off of that tunnel, where everything looks like it's that action, and you throw back the other way. To me, there's like endless possibilities about a guy that can make a little and something simple and easy. Just you don't even have to find the laces, Jaden. Get your snap, flip it to him, and now you have an offensive play. They could do that with Eckler when he was healthy last year, and adding Samuel to that, to me, is a miracle mix.
So I think that you can unlock Deebo if you can do one of two things. I need a run game that's actually effective. If it's B-Rob, fine. I'd prefer an explosive running back in the draft. Or I need a speedy receiver. I need a legit number 2 that I trust. Whether it's Isaiah Bond out of Texas, you get him in the draft, because I think that's where they're going to get it. Right now, the little gimmicky guy running around, I don't think is as effective because you're lacking still in some of the other resources. If you were to get a guy, though, that you now trust as a true wide receiver 2, or you get an explosive running back that I have to respect that, and now you're stretching me horizontally while also I have to worry about you penetrating me up the middle, then I think it's a little bit different. But that's why I'm a little bit down right now, because I just think adding him with Terry, he's going to be an upgrade over the guys you mentioned, no doubt. But that goes from like a 2-yard gain or a no gain to like 6 yards, 7 yards. And that helps, obviously,
right?
But I don't think it suddenly turns into 40 and 50-yard touchdowns.
So I smell what you're cooking. And in general, if I had my druthers, I would do that. Like I would have tried to find it, whether it was free agency, whether it's via trade or pre Debo. I would go, where is my speed guy coming from? Maybe it's a draft pick. Honestly, maybe I don't necessarily need to be refined. Do you run a 4-3? Are you good on the track? Let's have you offset the line of scrimmage and you run as far and fast as you can to terrify defenses to make them back off to create space underneath, which is where I want to be. Ideally, that's what I would do. So who knows if that happens or not? But again, I just sort of look at it this way. Last year, Lamedy Zaccheaus and De'Ami Brown, 75 catches, 814 yards between them. I got a more effective player than both those guys, with all due respect to them, in a similar role. I'm not saying he gets all 75 catches, but that to me is the whole point. That's why you do it. So you don't have to go, all right, I got to figure somebody out opposite Terry. What are we going to do? This week I'll try Luke McCaffrey to give him 2 targets. Or this week Zaccheaus will do it. Or Jamison Crowder's going to do it. Like those 3 guys made up this role that's now one guy. So I think that 800 all-purpose yards thing, if he's just really has lost a step or whatever the analogy you want to use or the evaluation you want to use, I still think just at a floor, he gets most of those touches and ends up with those kind of yardage totals. That's not a crazy way to think about it, is it?
I think that's where I'm at. Like, I think you're thinking that he's maybe going to be better than last year. I think he's the same. And if that's the case, he's an upgrade over what you had, but he's still not Deebo Samuel from 3-4 years ago where you're like, holy crap, I got to have that guy.
Right.
I don't think he's that guy anymore. I just don't.
No, and I think that's okay. He's not available if he is. He's signed to a huge deal if he's still 1770 guy. But yeah, a lot of wear and tear. But it's interesting. It's a good point. Anyway, Deebo Samuel back. We already knew he was here, but they restructured his contract. More guaranteed money. We'll endeavor to find out what the deal is with the cap hit, if that changes. I don't know that it does. It was already just over 17 mil. I can't imagine that changes when you guarantee money.
Yeah.
I don't know that it would go down. But again, you'll notice about me, I'm a lot of things. A capologist, not one of those things.